Greetings, fellow nerds and geeks. Why don't you pull yourself up a chair, grab yourself a beverage, and prepare to enjoy a geek-tastic conversation. Welcome to the Geek Easy.
Welcome back to the Geek Easy podcast. This is episode 62 for February 27th, 2019. I am Pixel Dan, and I am once again joined by Jonathan Leonard and Jaron McCaffrey.
What up?
John's here for the audio listeners.
Yeah.
He just waved.
The audio people don't know it, but I really am here.
You really are here. Yeah, you're back.
Yeah,
You missed the last regular episode.
I did miss the last, but I made the mini-sodes.
You did. You made the mini-sodes,
So.
which is a great reminder for anybody that's out there that has not checked out our extra episodes. We are going to be dropping, let's see. Well, Iron Man 3 is the most recent Marvel Good Yay, and we're about to roll into some more Undertaker stuff as well. We've only got 2 or 3 episodes left of Undertaker.
I think
three.
Three.
Yeah.
Yep.
3 episodes left where we talk about the Undertaker's WrestleMania
Streak
career.
Easy.
Yep, the Streak Easy.
And still many Marvel Good Yays.
Lots of Marvel Good Yays
Yeah,
still to come.
check out the mini episodes. Some people say they're even better than the regular episodes. Most people just think they're all fantastic, though. Regular
I like
and,
that.
and mini and everything.
Everybody
so.
likes it all.
That's right.
All geek all the time, right here.
All geek all
On
the
the
time.
Geek Easy podcast. It's wrestling, it's movies, it's everything. A little bit of everything. Actually, today's episode, we're going to live up to that cool little graphic we have of ourselves because we're each going to kind of talk about our specialties today. We're going to... So that cool little image we have.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together there.
We got some wrestling talk, we got some toy talk, we got some movie
This
talk.
is my new favorite episode, and we haven't even
This is gonna be a good
started
one.
yet.
This is going to be a good
It's
one.
going to be a good one. Well, why don't we go ahead and kick it off with Jaron's topic then, because we want to talk a little bit about the WWE Elimination Chamber, right?
Elimination Chamber, which I told you guys has been honestly it's been my favorite pay-per-view in years. I mean, since probably WrestleMania 2017.
Okay, all right.
I don't think there's been a better pay-per-view experience.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. So my thing...
For some reason, when you said that, I flashed to WrestleMania 17. It's like, wow, that is a long
time
nope,
ago.
never mind.
2017. That's
Well,
different.
they stopped.
Makes way more sense.
They stopped numbering the WrestleManias. I don't know if you've realized that or not.
No, I didn't.
They've stopped numbering them now. They're just
Well, I'll never
It's
stop.
it's just WrestleMania.
Nope, it's WrestleMania
You know,
30-something.
the first year. Well, exactly. You know, the first year they were like, it's not WrestleMania 30, whatever. It's just WrestleMania. I was like, nope. I'm always gonna still number them. And now here we are, like 2 years later. I have no idea what number this should be.
Wow,
Couldn't even.
that was effective.
Yeah.
They got us.
Yeah, they just Jedi mind tricked me.
Yeah,
I could do the math, but I don't want to.
This is not the numbering system you're looking for. Oh yeah, nope.
Remember when they put X's in them for a while?
Oh yeah, X.
I mean, that's
X7.
just Roman
yeah,
numerals.
I get it's the combo is more what I meant because they
X7
were doing
and X8,
when we-
right?
for a
okay,
long time.
yeah, when we had,
But
like-
you remember when they were doing
Yes.
They did X7 and X8. Well,
Yeah.
then there was the one year too where they were just like WrestleMania 2000, because that was when 2000 was like
which
the
was,
cool
which
futuristic.
was 16, so
Yeah.
they technically never had a 16. It
Yeah.
was just 2000.
Yeah.
And I remember when they went back to the Roman numerals for 19 because we kept calling it XIX.
Good.
Ridiculous. So the Elimination Chamber, I've always enjoyed the match. I liked the match.
Yeah.
My issue with it was always that I didn't feel like the placement was good. Like, I didn't like that the Elimination Chamber fell between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania,
Right.
because the whole point of winning the Royal Rumble is that you are guaranteed a title shot at Mania. But then at the Elimination Chamber, all of a sudden, 7 dudes become the #1 contender for the belt.
Right.
And I always thought that was kind of ridiculous. But I feel like it's a little bit better now with the way that the roster has changed and the dynamic of the show and the way they positioned the chamber this year. It was much more effective.
Well, so you got to remember a couple things while you're saying that. When the first year that they did the Elimination Chamber, you have to remember it was in direct reaction to not having a Royal Rumble winner.
Okay.
Well, because Eric Bischoff did it because someone from SmackDown had won the Royal Rumble. And so he was like, well, we're not even going to worry about not having a Royal Rumble winner because instead of that, we've got this new match that's 1/2 Royal Rumble, 1/2 Hell in a Cell, 1/2 War Games, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was the Elimination Chamber.
That's 3 halves. Yeah.
So like it was brought up that way. I also saw it used a couple years where it was for number 1 contendership.
Okay,
you know,
instead of just winning the belt.
because somebody had won it, won the Royal Rumble, and then once they picked their opponent, it was like, well, now Raw needs a,
So isn't the no, that wasn't the very first So the very first Elimination Chamber is the one that Shawn Michaels won the belt, right?
Correct.
Because that was a big deal.
I believe.
That was definitely the first
one.
Because nobody expected Shawn Michaels to win the championship because he had just come back to being a wrestler.
Yep.
And that was kind of one of those things that blew everybody away.
Right.
That was when he was wearing the poop pants.
Yeah.
The brown tights.
The brown tights, and he
didn't have any other tights.
And he had that hair, the real bad soccer mom hair.
The soccer mom cut. Yeah. That was awesome.
Yep.
But then the other memorable Elimination Chamber I always think of is the year that Cena won.
Yep.
And then Edge cashed in the first ever Money in the Bank.
Right.
So that one wasn't between Rumble and Mania, right? That one would have had to have been after because the Money in the Bank briefcase was at Mania originally, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you got to remember, I think it was still in the same spot.
Did Edge have it for almost the full year?
Edge had it for almost the full year.
Oh, he had it for
It may have been, you say that now, and I think you're probably right. It was, I think that Elimination Chamber was maybe at Survivor Series or somewhere late in the year because Cena had the title back by Mania that year.
Okay.
So that was a feud in between, and because if you remember, go back and watch the DVDs, whatever, nobody was sold on Edge at that time. Edge didn't get his real run till after he had proved himself in that short feud with Cena.
Oh, okay. Before
he
became a rated R superstar.
Well, because that was all during that. Well, that was when he became the rated R superstar.
That's right. It was the next night on Raw was the celebration.
Right. But he did go on. He kind of he swore he wasn't going to be a transition champion all over TV, and then immediately dropped it back to Cena. Then that Mania was the year he
fought Foley
in the hardcore match.
That awesome hardcore match.
And so then after that was when they were like, well, I guess Edge is ready. We'll better give him a real run.
Edge
and then
is the guy. Yeah, and then he had it for a long time.
Was it an Elimination Chamber when the Undertaker got set on fire?
Yes.
Yeah. We were at that. Yeah. We were at that show because that was the year he was building up to his match at Mania with Michaels, and he came out on the entryway, and his pyros just went off on him. And at first, we thought it was part of. We were like, "Oh man, Michaels set Undertaker on fire, right?" Because we were at the live show.
I didn't know what was going on until I saw him chucking up the aisle with his coat on fire.
It was insane. And then through the whole because when you go back and watch it on TV, none of that stuff's actually on camera.
Oh man!
So we saw it happen. They made sure to cut away from that real quick. But through the entirety of the cell, people keep handing bottles of water into him while he's in his cell, and he keeps dumping water all over his arm and his back because he was he had second-degree burns from his coat going up in flames.
He was on fire for a minute.
God, dude. It was nuts. And then I remember he was walking back up the aisle at the end, and we saw him pointing and yelling at somebody down up at the entrance. He was mad.
Well, how could you not be, dude? Yeah. He got blown up.
Well, you're going right away, before he even got the flaming coat off, we're sitting there going, well, somebody just got fired.
Yeah. Somebody lost their job tonight. Oh my God, that was crazy. That was in Chicago, right? Was that or St. Louis?
I think it was St. Louis.
St. Louis. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. All right, so this year's Elimination Chamber. Let's talk about it.
This year's Elimination Chamber. So I'm trying to find, but I can't. I was trying to find a rundown. You'd think this is the kind of thing I'd have ahead of time, but
we just wing it here on this show.
We'll just have to wing it. I don't want to talk about necessarily the whole card anyway. Like you said, it's 2 weeks old at this point. So if you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. Actually, but we're about to spoil it. And just some parts. So we opened with the Women's Elimination Chamber match, which was a tag team Elimination Chamber match.
Yeah.
To crown the first ever Women's tag team. Well, not the first ever. There was an really old women's tag team
They
championship.
were touting it as the first, weren't they?
Yeah, but it's not.
No, that's which is fine.
There were some. Yeah, there were some way back. Like even pre Rock and Wrestling when there was women's tag team champions.
Yeah.
So it's been a while, and I doubt they were ever all that relevant. But they're super relevant now because the women's division is on fire.
Yes.
And this match felt that way.
Yes. Absolutely. All the way through.
Yeah.
And
it was hot.
have we ever seen a tag team elimination chamber before? I'm trying to remember if we've ever seen
not one that left any kind of memory.
Right,
if there was one, I don't remember
so
it.
I was a little skeptical going in because I was like, well, this seems like it could easily become a cluster.
Yeah.
Like this has the potential to go bad.
Well, it's already
because there's
already
so
6
many,
people, so now we're talking about 12 people
yes,
packed inside that cell.
So many
Right.
people, and you just never, when you have that many people in one match,
Yep.
I mean, it gets complicated sometimes to like keep track of everything and keep things running fluid. But man, you really got to give it to the ladies because this match, like you said, all the way through, this match felt like a big time match.
They
felt
tore it
money.
down.
All of them.
Yep.
All of them. I don't feel like there was a real weak link in
even
there.
the ones, Mandy Rose and what's her name, Sonya Deville.
Yeah.
They are not good, and you couldn't tell in this match. Like they stepped up.
Was that who it was? I think it was. We were talking a little bit before. I think it was Sonya Deville and the Viking girl
Sarah
from
Logan.
Yeah, were the ones that were going all strong style on each other for a minute there, where they were just pounding the heck out of each other back and forth like they had something to prove.
Yeah.
And it was pretty intense. But all the girls brought it. Like even the Iconics, who just crack me up because like they have been put in the position of being like the catty kind of like they're the BFFs and they're just like better than everybody, but like it's funny because like they're almost positioning them kind of like what every diva used to be,
Right.
but like I don't know, like they're very entertaining at the way they're handling it with them. I think like I don't know.
It's better. So when you have a whole division of like when your whole division is just like, oh look, here's all these catty chicks having like bra and panties matches and silliness, you know what I mean? And we'll give them 10 minutes, or we'll give them 2 minutes, with six of them out there to get your match. You know what I mean? Then it's just like, ugh, what are we doing? But when you have like that's part of a legit division, and 2 of them just happen to be these crazy catty chicks that seem. Now here's the other thing too. They play that role like they have no business in the ring. They're just like the crazy catty. Right. We're out here to but they're actually good.
Yeah.
They're not the best.
Right.
But they're good. They're not completely lost in the ring.
Exactly.
So,
and maybe that's just the difference. But it also makes sense too, like what you were just saying, because every other girl in this match were all beating the poop out of each other.
Right.
And these 2 were playing that role where they were hiding and they were running around. Like one of my favorite parts of the match is like we just got done with a big spot where every girl basically hit a big finish. So they were all down, and then the chamber doors opened, and it was the Iconics. So they just came running out, squawking like a couple turkeys, like trying to pin every single person.
Right.
Like the noise that they were making was insane. They were going, they were like screaming at each other. And they're trying to pin every girl out there, and I was just cracking up. I'm like, this is
great.
So absurd. Like
I will never not hear turkeys again.
That's the noise they were making. I swear, they sounded ridiculous. But they're like doing it on purpose. That's like their thing. They just yell at each other in like this high pitched voice. It's hilarious. But like because they even did that spot later where they like tried to hide in the cell from Tamina and Nia Jax.
Tamina and Nia Jax.
Like they just went back in their cell and shut their doors.
And Tamina and Nia Jax
just
ripped the
doors
open.
Open. Yeah, that was
great.
That was awesome.
That was great.
And then they grabbed them and just simultaneously started beating them back and forth.
That was insane. Yeah, dude, that was awesome.
Well, the reaction from the crowd was great during that whole thing. Oh my gosh!
Well, they were in it for everything. This match, and that's that's the thing. This match was so well constructed.
It was. It really was.
And we know how the system works. There's agents back there helping put them together. Mm-hmm. You know what? There's always been agents back there helping the divas put matches together. And you know, there was a time where the Divas just didn't perform like this.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
it's great to see the girls out there now that can do it.
Yeah.
And that they're able to do it, and that they've got the support structure. You know what I mean? The company is going, all right, this match is going to be awesome, and help them put it together.
Right.
you know?
It was amazing all the way through. There were some great spots in there, and I'm trying to remember. Gosh, I just wish I could remember all the standout spots. But like,
yeah, it's a must see. I would say, you know,
definitely.
that's the thing. That's the thing. There's there's 3.5 must-see segments on this show.
Yeah.
I can't say that about any show. I don't even feel that way about last year's Mania, 2018 Mania.
Oh,
I don't feel like there's anything right now I can't think of anything must-see except for Ronda Rousey's match.
Oh, that was
that
definitely
whole card.
the highlight last
You
year.
know?
Absolutely.
So moving on to so that's a great match. Sasha and Bayley won that match, became the first ever women's tag team champions.
Yep.
For all intents and purposes, way behind it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, and it just it had that moment. You felt it. You know, it was important to them.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. One of the things we miss a lot is that you don't feel like anything matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the wrestler, the type of wrestler that we have today, is not good at making you feel that in a lot of times.
Right.
You know, they want to go out there and they have their match. They want to have a good match. If they don't, you know, a lot of the indie workers that have gotten used to working 20 minutes on the indie scenes and getting all their stuff in don't seem to adapt real well to, you know, making a match that's 5 minutes for TV feel like it matters.
Right. Yep.
They don't really build towards stakes anymore.
Yeah,
often.
you know, it's tough to feel the stakes at all, and then it's even tougher when you put somebody out there and the championship match where normally you feel all the stakes is Roman Reigns, and he should be having his triumphant moment, but instead he's getting booed out of the building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that stuff matters, and that stuff hurts how it feels to watch at home.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's kind of one of the things that gets missed just in the overall production. Okay, so I also want to talk about The Miz and Shane McMahon versus the Usos.
Yeah.
Okay, I've just loved this whole storyline
with Miz
and Shane.
It's so silly.
I thought it was so stupid when I found out that Shane won the best in the world.
Best wrestler in the world.
Right, the best in the world tournament at whatever Saudi Arabia pay-per-view, Crown Jewel.
Yeah, Crown Jewel.
At Crown Jewel. And but then they turned it into this storyline, and for the longest time I was just I was just all in on this storyline because it's ridiculous, you know, and like the stuff where Miz goes to Mr. McMahon and asks for his blessing to be Shane's partner. This is amazing. So I was totally sold on that. I did, and I'm a huge Usos fan, so I did get super mad when the Usos came out to challenge Shane McMahon and The Miz.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh well, they're just gonna steamroll these guys. That sucks because they're a legit tag team.
Right.
And who knows? And I assume we're just building to Shane versus Miz. Well, I did for the longest time. I'm not so sure now.
I know, because even at the end of this match, I was kind of like, are they gonna? Oh, they don't know.
Yeah. I assumed they were just building to Shane versus Miz at Mania.
Right.
But now I wonder if maybe we're not gonna get a match. You know, if they're not trying to use this to actually turn Miz face and let Miz have a face run, and they're just trying to give him the run because everybody loves Shane so much. You know, so it's like, well, if we just tag him up and actually endear him to Shane, then the crowd will get behind him.
It's working.
It's working. Well, but that was also, I remember them talking about, and after the first season of Miz and Mrs., how he came off as such a nice guy on that they were worried they were going to have trouble keeping him heel.
Oh.
So like I've heard this rumbling for a while, and maybe there's nothing to it. I also don't follow very closely the dirt sheets and the rumors and all that, whatever is around. But I have heard that rumbling, and I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it, you know. Although, it has not stopped Daniel Bryan from being super heel.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. But
is he still on that? Do they still do?
he's still on. I
don't
believe,
keep up with the total
I believe he's still.
divas.
I don't either.
they have, like,
Total
Total
Bellas.
Bellas now?
Total Bellas.
Does he come off as a super nice guy on that show? I haven't watched any of it.
He used to.
He used
Yeah.
to.
Okay.
I
for
watched.
sure.
I watched one season. Did I watch? Was it the first season of Total Bellas?
Yeah.
I
I don't remember.
I could totally
It
picture
was-
that show being Daniel Bryan puts up with the Bellas. You know what I mean? So that's what I didn't know.
Well, I watched the one because Nikki was still with John Cena, so John
She
Cena
was
and
for a
Daniel
while,
Bryan
yeah.
was on it. I think it was still Total Divas.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I was watching in the early days of Total Divas. I don't think I ever watched Total Bellas.
I've never seen Total Bellas. I definitely watched the first couple seasons
Yeah.
of Total Divas.
Anyway, I'm gonna try and keep us on track.
All right.
So, so the Miz and Daniel Bryan lose the titles to the Usos. Really solid match. Really good match. I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't call it a must see, but it's definitely worth watching. So it's my half.
All right. Sweet.
Yep.
Shane just looks so tired when he does those coast to coast.
Dude, Shane.
Oh my gosh, dude! He just looks like he's dead.
Yeah.
I can't ever
Which
tell.
I think like he still makes it, and it almost like I don't like adds to it. Isn't exactly the way I would put it, but I mean,
Right.
it does put a little bit of flair to the moment. You
Yeah.
know, I still remember that when they won the titles. And he got up and basically did like the cross before he did his
Shooting star,
shooting star, and like landed it and got the win and
Yeah.
looked like he had just gotten the life beaten out of
I
him,
know.
Right.
instead of had won a title.
I can't tell if he's just good at selling, like that's his thing now, or
Bro.
like it's like he's just legitimately like half dead. Like,
Bro,
Can it be
nobody's that good at selling, man. his face turns red. It looks like he's been stung by a bee, like, and he's allergic. You know,
Yeah, he looks-
like
he looks like he's on his deathbed.
Yeah,
every
nobody
time.
is that good at selling. I mean, he gets through it. I'll give him that. He gets through it,
yeah.
but nobody is that good at selling.
That coast to coast spot was awesome though.
Yeah.
because
Yep.
he hit Jimmy with
Yep.
it, and then when he went for the one on Jay caught him with that perfect super kick. I was
Yep.
just like, oh god, that was beautiful. Yeah, that was
Yep.
awesome.
So there's several awesome moments in that match. Several just it was
Usos
just a
are so
good
good.
story, and you know it was it was really good storytelling. That's part of the reason I marked hard for it. You know, I was like, this is awesome, and this match is put together like a wrestling match, not like a spot fest.
Yeah.
You know, this is a story. You know, they're telling this story here. I like it.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
So that one's worth checking out. So the next segment that is worth checking out, that is a must-see segment, is the segment with Ronda Rousey and Charlotte
Yes.
and Becky Lynch.
Yes.
So there was actually a match.
Except I don't want to watch it again.
Man.
There was actually a match, which was Ronda Rousey versus Ruby Riott.
Yeah.
And you know, I said to myself when that match was coming out, I've been saying to myself watching Raw, like, Ruby Riott, really? I mean, I guess they just need somebody for her to eat up, and that's exactly what happened.
Well,
Ronda beat her in under 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, like she got a proper match with her on Raw the next night.
Yeah,
But like
which
this
was good enough.
And yeah, this was one of those things where like you couldn't send Ruby in there to have a real match with her in this moment.
Right.
Because the second those two were both in the ring, the crowd was already
Yeah.
going, Becky, Becky.
Yeah, for
you know what
sure.
I mean? Like,
Well, it didn't
we
help.
already hit that point where,
Yeah.
like, that is all the crowd cares about right now
Yep.
is Becky
and,
Lynch.
and they knew that, and that was the point.
Yeah.
And it didn't help. Had they actually treated it like a real match, we might have gotten a little bit, but they went ahead and just sent Charlotte out there to sit at ringside. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like they
yeah.
telegraphed it a little. I think
Yeah.
you probably could have mitigated that some,
yeah.
but they didn't care to.
Yeah.
Which is
Well,
fine. Which is fine.
because that's what they were building to.
Right, which is fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that match was a tool to get to that spot.
Yes.
Yes.
So of course the spot, Becky Lynch comes hobbling through the crowd because she's been suspended.
Yeah.
So she's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
She's on a bad leg.
Yeah.
So she's on crutches, but here she comes, and the crowd just loses their mind for her, man. As
Loses
soon as
their
she shows
minds.
up,
Yeah, dude.
it's amazing to see. And she gets in the ring and beats Charlotte
I
and
love
Ronda
it.
Rousey half to death with her crutches.
so like the way that plays out is so perfect too, because like like Charlotte's looking at her like, you were so pathetic. Like,
Right.
what are you doing hobbling around in here? And the next thing you know, Becky is just wailing on her with that crutch.
Yeah.
And Charlotte's rolling all over the ring, just getting blasted with this thing.
Yeah.
then-
And Rhonda's standing there laughing.
Rhonda's standing there
Yeah.
laughing, letting it happen, which is awesome.
Right.
And then they kind of do that moment where like they kind of face off with each other a little bit, and Becky's like, go ahead and get a couple shots in on Charlotte.
Yeah.
And so Rhonda's like a little not trusting, but she's like, all right, maybe I'll just go get some shots in. And then Becky starts wailing on Rhonda too. And it's just the best. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The whole thing was amazing.
Yep.
Those chicks, both of those chicks,
Man.
took some serious punishment.
Yep.
It was awesome. It was so awesome. It's another one of those things, like, this felt like a real moment.
Yeah.
And everybody keeps making the
Because they were really good.
well, like, yes, but like, how often does this happen anymore? Where
Right.
like,
We
you
don't-
just feel this real like emotional like investment in what's
Yep.
going on, and like, oh my gosh, like everybody keeps making the connection with Becky as being like straight up the new Stone Cold.
Yeah.
And it's just legitimately the truth.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
she is being booked like Stone Cold, but also like she is believable as the new
Yeah.
Stone Cold. Like, it's amazing to watch this happen.
Well, and she's made it happen. They didn't decide to push her.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, they decided not to push her.
Yeah.
And she just started doing what she does.
Yeah.
Better than anybody else on the card.
Yep.
And as that developed, the crowd just came right along with it.
It's,
You know?
it's
Which is the
always,
best part about it, because
Absolutely.
you don't, like, that's one of the things we've complained about is with the new style, the new system.
Right.
Yes, it's really hard for guys to have the opportunity to really make themselves, because
Yeah.
everything is so micromanaged. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is great on some levels,
Yep.
but it takes away that organic build that
Yeah.
is what made a lot of wrestling special, you know?
Right.
'Cause that's the thing. There's so many terribly bad ideas that come and go in wrestling, and we talk about this from time to
Yep.
time. And you always look at it and go, "Well, who was thinking what when they put that on TV?" But then you find the things where it's like, if you analyze some of the best stuff that's ever happened, it never would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it wasn't just a bunch of guys out there trying stuff and seeing what stuck, you know.
Absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
when they take, when everything is scripted down to a T, and everything is timed down to a T, and everything is systemized down to a T, you get some really great stuff because you have that control, but you lose part of that factor.
Yeah.
And now we're getting a piece of that breaking through somehow.
Yep.
And it's really
always-
engaging.
Yeah.
I say the last time I feel like this happened was the Daniel Bryan stuff.
Yeah.
And like the Daniel Bryan build up to his crowning moment at WrestleMania was legitimately some of the most exciting wrestling I had watched in years, and it was because it was happening so organically.
Yeah.
Like that dude just pushed right through, and
Yep.
like the crowd had just decided we're not going to let anything else happen except for this, because this is what we want.
Right.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so amazing. And now we're kind of seeing the same thing happening with Becky right now.
Yep.
In a division, like, we're in a time period where already the women have already, like, really stepped up
Yeah.
and have basically become the most exciting thing on Raw and SmackDown these
Yep.
days. And now, like, on top of that, you've got Becky just, like, pushing her way to the forefront of that
Right.
whole thing. It's just so amazing to watch.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
and it's perfectly timed as well. And I don't say this to take anything away from anybody, what anybody has done. But it sure doesn't hurt that this is all happening right at the same time, that Vince is paying big money for Rousey. So like, he's sold on the women's division.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If Becky was just, doing this just with Charlotte, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Would we have this same acceptance from the company? Whether the fan,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, we saw how hard it took Daniel Bryan to push through.
Right.
You know
Well,
what I mean?
we've all
And
heard,
we've seen plenty of the male wrestlers who get great crowd reactions, and we still see Roman Reigns in every main event.
Right. We've all heard how stubborn Vince can be, and
Right.
he gets very set in his ways, and
Yep.
and if he doesn't believe it, he doesn't care that the crowd believes it, kind
Right.
of a thing. And that's, I was even talking before, like, it's surprising to me that he is so on board with this whole thing, because this seems like something that Vince would be like, they'll never buy it. They'll never
Yeah.
buy a chick Stone Cold. They'll never
Yep.
buy the girls in the main event.
Right.
But I think you're right with Rousey being there and kind
Yeah.
of adding some legitimacy in Vince's mind.
Yep. Yeah.
This is helping the whole scenario.
Yeah, because he can't pay Ronda Rousey and promote Ronda Rousey the way he has been and should be, and then be like, well, yeah, but nobody will buy Becky Lynch. You know what I mean? Like, like who's she gonna wrestle? You know, you know what I mean? Like, she got to have somebody to wrestle, and even better that it's that somebody he owns is coming on so strong. You know, so like it's a perfect storm, kind of.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, which again is the recipe for all the best wrestling. You know?
Right.
Like, not only does it have to be the right person in the right place, it's got to be the right time too.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff you can't plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it has to just happen, and you have to be able to roll with it when it does.
Yeah. And hey, just as a little spoiler alert for everybody out there, if you're not watching Drew McIntyre now, Drew McIntyre will be there in the next 2 years.
You can see it.
Drew McIntyre delivers on a level above everybody else.
Yeah.
And in the next 2 years, he'll be that guy that the crowd is like, this guy is it. This guy is it. This is what we want. All of it right now. And they'll be behind him. You know, we get to see that. So I'm just telling everybody right now, start watching Drew McIntyre if you want to be on board.
He's got that presence about him too. Like, there's jumping around a little bit in the show. Like, there's that moment later on where him and Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin are like united as a team or whatever. And they're all standing alongside each other in the ring. And Drew McIntyre looks like he is just so many levels above those two guys. It's ridiculous. Like, you can just see it in him.
He's shorter. He's shorter than Corbin. He's smaller. He's smaller than Lashley, but man, his presence just comes through in a way that those guys just don't.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
you can see it in him.
And that's a great example to like look at. Even the big monster, because they all beat up Strowman. Yeah, and McIntyre carries himself in a way Strowman doesn't. You know, Strowman's 7 foot, 300 pounds. He's bigger than all of them. You know what I mean? And I like Strowman. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm a Strowman fan, but he just doesn't. You know, when McIntyre gets to the ring, there's a presence with him, a star power, an it factor, whatever you want to call it, that just eclipses everybody else in the ring with him.
Agreed.
But his segment was terrible. He didn't have a match, and all he did was come out and do that glorified Raw segment in the middle of the pay-per-view. I don't know why they did. I think they did that to kill time. Yeah. Or not to kill time, to cut time.
I was going to say.
They didn't want to give because it
was after the Rousey thing. They needed to kind of bring things down a little bit after all that.
Yeah. But then Strowman and Corbin also had their actual match the next night on Raw. So it was another one of those things where it was like, well, let's not do this here, I guess.
So done with the Strowman Corbin stuff too. Like,
well, hopefully, I think we are now. Like, I think that was supposed to be their blow off.
I hope so. I hope that's done.
Yep. So anyway, the final must-see moment of the pay-per-view was the final match, the men's Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
Which was for the new Daniel Bryan's title. Which, how phenomenal is his belt, dude?
I love that belt so much.
So he's got.
Oh my gosh!
If you're not watching, he's got this belt now that is like on a hemp band, and it's all wood and natural because he's the green champion. Yeah. And so he's the new Daniel Bryan, and so he's the planet's champion.
Yeah, because he's totally playing up the vegan thing and everything. So his belt's vegan. So that's why there's no leather. There's no leather. Yeah,
there's no gold.
It's a hemp belt. It's got wood plates.
It's amazing.
It's like adorned with like rocks instead of It's amazing looking. Yeah, it's so good.
It's so good. It's beautiful. Whoever came up with that
I want them to start selling replicas of that. I might actually buy that belt. Like, I've never bought a replica before, but I love that belt.
If they don't already, I'm sure it's right around the corner.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
They don't do stuff like that to not make money.
Yeah, you're right.
So this match delivered in every way that a main event could possibly deliver.
Yeah.
And that's I don't want to talk about it a lot. We don't need to spoil a bunch of it. This is the must see match of 2019.
It was so good.
We talked a little earlier about the old the previous chamber matches. I have never liked the Elimination Chamber matches.
Really?
Yeah.
I enjoyed them.
Some of them were entertaining to watch. I never liked the idea. I thought the chamber looked bad. I thought it looked even worse now that they've got the flooring all padded around the ring. So, you know, at least before, like when those guys were falling on those grates, you're like, I feel that, man. Now it's all padded, and you know what I mean. So I feel like it's lost a little bit of its teeth. But this match was just super well put together. It had moment after moment after moment. These guys knew what they were. It was full of pros. You know, there was a lot of times in these multi-man matches for the WWE, there's like 2 good wrestlers, 2 all right wrestlers, and then the 2 guys they just stick in there because Vince really wants them to be a thing, even though they're like. So,
well, I was gonna say, I feel like out of everybody that was in this match, the one that felt like the wild card that got just thrown in there was Kofi.
Yeah.
And I was even kind of like, well, how in the world did Kofi get? Oh, they just want him to do some crazy stuff. That's why he's in there. Except, like, man, did he shine in this match? And like, they basically just ran with him too, because this match came down to him and Daniel Bryan as the final 2, and then they went on to have like a 20-minute match with each other after everybody else had been eliminated, and like a good like main event quality match with each other, to the point where like the crowd got so invested in seeing Kofi topple Daniel Bryan and become the champion that like you could feel it bleeding through the TV, and like you were getting excited at all these close calls and these false finishes. Like, it was amazing to see how they roped everybody in. Like
the crowd was so excited for it. They were so on fire for Kofi.
Yeah,
they were. There was not, there was none of that split. Let's go Kofi. Kofi sucks. Or nothing. Or let's go Kofi. Daniel Bryan. Nothing like that.
Right.
It was all just Kofi, give us Kofi.
Yeah.
And they gave him as much as they could.
I feel like that's so like where did that come from? But
didn't he have I didn't see it, but didn't he have a gauntlet match or something like that was really good on SmackDown the week before?
Yeah. Yeah, they've been quietly building Kofi for this spot over the last few weeks leading up to the match. You don't really think about it. Yeah. Because it's Kofi.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He spent the last 5 years
because somebody
throwing pancakes around.
Right.
I was going to say, somebody even said, like, because it was after I heard about that gauntlet match before the Elimination Chamber, because somebody was like, has Kofi always been really good? And I was like, yeah, he has. Like, he's spent a long time selling fake cereal and doing Royal Rumble shenanigans, and he's good at that too, and that's fine. But before then, when he was just a guy working, he was always
he was always really good, always real solid.
He had that little main event run for a minute there with Orton. Remember?
Yeah, when he smashed up that car and dumped the paint all over it.
Yeah, they did that little thing. But like even Corey Graves was going out of his way to say things like that in the match.
Right.
He was like, "You guys got to remember that Kofi was before the Bootios and before the pancakes. Like, Kofi can go." And like they were putting that in your ear while you were watching it. So I was super impressed though.
It was awesome.
Real into it.
It was awesome. It was really bananas. Hopefully, it signals the rebirth of a run for Kofi. He's Daniel Bryan's fast lane opponent, which is not going to turn out the way they want it to.
Probably, but you never know. Right?
You never know, and maybe they'll make me eat those words, and I'll be fine with it.
Yeah.
But I really think stuff like that happens once, and sometimes it's like a breakthrough. And not to take anything away from Kofi or anybody, you know what I mean? Like I say, this is a must-see match. Any match, the matches at Mania, everything's going to have a hard time living up to that match and the feel of that match, because it came out of nowhere, and even though they had been building Kofi to it, you still didn't expect it and you still didn't feel it, until it happened, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this is something special.
Right.
When you try and recreate that something special, it never works out that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm sure the match will be great. I'm not saying the match won't be good, but it won't have that same feeling. Part of that feeling is that you're watching it for the first time.
Right.
Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker had 2 phenomenal matches at WrestleMania, the first one was amazing because you kind of didn't see it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you were like, well, I know this is going to be good because it's Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. But then they went out there and you were like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
I didn't know this could be, wrestling could be so good.
Yeah.
It was like life-changing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Save it for the minisodes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Just taste what you get.
Yeah. To hear us discuss it in long term.
But first, you have to go back and listen to us talk about Taker and Sid. then we'll get to Taker and Shawn.
You have to listen to all of the Streak Easies. So anyway, man, when you so there was several times during that night, Elimination Chamber, random pay-per-view. You know, not one of the big five, just kind of one of the little filler pay-per-views between Rumble and Mania, and you know. 3 times you feel like you know you have those moments that you're going to remember, you know, where it's magic, you know, when Bayley and Sasha won the women's tag titles. You're like, man, this is history, you know, this is magic. We're going to remember this, you know. The same thing with Becky attacking Charlotte, and you know the same thing with this match, you know, the end of this match with Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston, you know, and that's not something you get all the time. Yeah. So this a must see. Much less to have three of those moments in one night. Must see pay-per-view.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed it, so I would highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already watched it, because it was about a week and a half ago now. But still, you should go check it out.
It's still on the network.
It is still there. That's the best thing about the network.
It's waiting for you right now.
It'll probably be there tomorrow.
I would
Maybe.
assume so. I would assume so. All right.
They pulled that pay-per-view down for some reason.
Psych. Ha ha ha. They just put it on actual pay-per-view.
Right.
The replay's on pay-per-view for $49.99.
$49.99.
Remember we used to pay that much for
3 easy
pay-per-views?
installments.
Yeah.
Becomes a Blu-ray exclusive.
That'd be so weird.
Coliseum home video.
Coliseum.
Only.
All right. Let's go ahead and switch courses now. And I want to talk a little bit about New York Toy Fair, which was my 9th Toy Fair in a row, which is crazy. I've been going out to New York City every year to cover this event. This is like the big toy event of the year. So after this, we're going to be talking about the Oscars. So it's like your big movie event of the year.
Yeah.
It happens right around the same time as a big toy event of the year.
And we just had a good pay-per-view, but we don't always get those.
Yeah. So this is really
been a
cool.
big
We got
month.
like all these big moments happening here that we all get to discuss. I assume most of you guys who are listening or watching are familiar with Toy Fair, especially if you're already following my stuff. But if you're not familiar, essentially this is an annual trade show that happens every year in New York City, where all the toy companies come together to basically show off their product for the year in an attempt to get their stuff in stores, try to put to market what they're expecting to be the big hot items for this year's upcoming Christmas season, and just kind of also build hype and interest in everything that's going on in the toy world. So it's everything from like the major toy companies at retail to the collector companies who just focus specifically on the collector market, all the way down to these tiny little toy companies that you've never even heard of, like basically trying to get noticed for the first time. It's kind of an amazing event. I really love going out there because I just love seeing all this stuff. Like, this is the part of the industry that really fascinates me. I love this sort of thing. I love seeing
Nerd.
I love it, man. I do. I love seeing the little guys like trying to show off their things, like get noticed, all the way up to the things that we're expecting to see every year. But I thought I would just kind of do a quick recap of some of my favorite things that I saw at the show and discuss some of the other interesting things that were kind of building up this year. So I don't know if you guys saw any of this stuff, but I think I have to say that my absolute favorite reveal of the entire show is the fact that Super 7 announced the newest wave of Masters of the Universe Classics figures, and they're giving us a wave of figures based on the 87 movie from He-Man, which is something that we were told for years could never happen because of likeness rights and licensing and weird stuff. And they just dropped this huge bomb on us. They're like, boom, check it out. We've got Dolph Lundgren He-Man, we've got Karg, we've got Frank Langella Skeletor, and we've got Frank Langella in the Golden God Skeletor costume. And I was
I kind of want those Skeletors.
I was over the moon, man. You have no idea. Like, this line has been amazing. This line's been going on for almost... We're in the 11th year of this Masters of the Universe line now, so it's far surpassed the original line. There's more toys in it than the original line. But these figures right here were kind of like... They felt like my last, like, once out of this line. Like, if there was... Like, everybody always says, what's the one thing that you really want out of Classics? I always said I wanted these movie figures, because we never got proper toys of these characters as they appeared in that movie, and I just thought it would never happen.
We got the little guy with the key.
Yes, we got Gwildor, we got Blade, and we got Sarad in the original line. They were the only 3 movie figures that were out, and as a result, they were the only 3 figures that got made in the current line, because they said that was a loophole. Since they were in the original toy line, they were able to make them for the new toy line.
Are they doing a Courtney Cox figure?
No, not yet. but now it's like never say never, because apparently they made this work. So like, now we need Courtney Cox. We need movie style Beastman. We need movie Tila. We need movie Man at Arms. You better just bring them all now, because now you've done this. But that Gold God Skeletor specifically is a toy I've always wanted. So I am over the moon about it. It's ridiculous. It's so cool. But the other crazy thing that they decided to drop that nobody saw coming is they're branching out and doing like these other toy properties like in the same style as they've been doing these He-Man figures. Yeah. So it's kind of like the Classics style is what they're calling it now. And for years, people have always said it'd be really cool to see some of these other classic toy lines come back in like the same style you guys are doing this. So Super 7 just like randomly had this Toxic Crusader figure. Nice. Done awesome. In the same style, but he looks just like the old Playmates Toys figure, even down to the accessories that he comes with, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. Is it the same scale as
Same scale.
Nice.
Voltron, in the same scale, same style, fully decoed. Conan the Barbarian, which totally makes sense going alongside He-Man stuff too. And then the most insane thing is they had this little placard that says Ninja Turtles coming soon. And these turtles, they're going to do Ninja Turtles figures in the same style, in the same scale, sculpted by the Four Horsemen, which is the same guys that have been doing all the He-Man figures for all these years. So now I'm going to get my second favorite property made by the same people who have been making my favorite property for 11 years now. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. I feel like I wanted to pass out when I saw I was like, this is insane. Like, it's crazy. So I can't wait to see it. Apparently they've already, I found out after the fact, talking to Cornboy of the Four Horsemen. His name's Eric Mays, so he goes by Cornboy because his last name's Mays. Just throwing, in case you're wondering why he's Cornboy. But he says that they've already sculpted.
I don't get it.
We know.
Oh, okay. They've already sculpted apparently the first several figures for this Turtles line, and they're going to be debuting them apparently at Comic-Con. And I'm juiced. I'm so amped. I can't wait to see them. So Super 7 really brought some amazing stuff to the show that I wanted to definitely gush about. But on the Turtles front, we can't not talk about what NECA's doing, because they're also doing some amazing Turtles figures, and they just debuted their Bebop and Rocksteady based on the original cartoon, which are also done in like 7-inch scale, and they're phenomenal. They're just amazing, because we've never had a Bebop and Rocksteady that like truly looked like they did in the cartoon and toy form. Because the original toys, like, you know, they were kind of their own thing. And these are like straight up cartoon versions of Bebop and Rocksteady. And they look amazing.
Yeah, those look nice.
They're so good. And then they also, which I can't wait to show you this, because you're a big fan of the movie. Yeah. The freaking movie shredder that they're doing is got to be one of the most gorgeously sculpted toys I have ever seen.
It looks like a still from the movie.
I know, it's so good. So the mask comes off, and it even has like the actor's face and likeness underneath with the scratches on the face. The cape is like this beautiful like cloth cape with like the crazy like leopard print or whatever it was that he had in the movie. I mean, it is unreal. So like just some of the stuff we're getting, Turtles and He-Man. I can't believe that it's 2019 and we're getting these amazing He-Man and Ninja Turtles toys.
Are they doing those movie foot soldiers
Yes,
too?
they are. Nice. Movie foot soldiers too. So these are these here, the foot soldier and the shredder, are in the quarter scale. So they're actually in the big size to match those turtles you see up there on my shelf. But they've also released those turtles in the smaller 7-inch scale, and he didn't straight outright confirm it, but he heavily hinted in my interview that they'll be doing the same thing with Shredder and the Foot Soldier. So that's awesome for anybody that doesn't want to buy the giant ones. they can probably hold out and get them in the smaller scale as well.
What's the price point on something like that? Those big ones?
They're about $80 a piece. Ooh. They're expensive.
Remember when they used to be $6?
When toys used to be $6? Yeah. That is long gone, dude. The basic price point for an action figure these days is $20.
Man,
it's just inflation and all that good stuff. It's crazy. I know. It's an expensive hobby for sure.
Every time sports comes up, I always go, man, I hope my kids are nerds. And now I don't know what I want. Yeah.
I know, right? But both are expensive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's a lot of money too.
Yeah. That's always my point. It's not that I don't mind the sports. I like sports fine. I just don't want to pay for traveling and all that.
So sticking on the Turtles thing. You and I had a discussion on the last podcast about Rise of the Turtles.
Yep.
And I was kind of wondering how the new line was doing and everything.
I listened to that.
Yeah. I kind of felt like it wasn't like... I feel like the toys aren't selling as hot as the 2012 toys did.
Yep.
And I still feel that way.
Is that because they're weird looking?
Well, that was kind of... I really like your kind of hypothesis about the whole thing. About how, like, if the parents aren't really into it, they may not be pushing their kids towards it, and that might be part of the problem. That might be why the kids aren't really into it as much. They did. So I asked, and they said that they were pretty happy with how the line was going and that it was solid.
Right.
But my own observations, the presence of the line at their booth was not as big, even as it was last year.
Yeah.
And like when the 2012 series was hot, the entire Playmates Toys booth was nothing but Turtles.
Yeah.
Because it was like they were putting out so much product and it was everywhere.
Yep.
And this takes up a smaller portion of their booth now because they have other properties that they're trying to push too. Like they got Ben 10, and I think Ben 10's doing really well for them. But this was a smaller footprint than it ever was. And also, like, one of the big deciding factors for it is last year they revealed 2 massive play sets. They had a sewer play set, which was huge, and then like a second part of the sewer play set that was going to connect underneath it to make it even bigger.
Right.
So the first play set came out for Christmas this year. And this year, that second playset wasn't even on display in the booth. And I was like, hey, what happened to that other playset? And they're like, yeah, it's probably not happening. We're gonna,
not even...
they're not focusing on it for 2018 or 2019. We'll reevaluate it next year.
Right.
That typically means that it's been axed.
Yeah.
And that probably means that they felt like the sales of the first playset weren't strong enough to warrant a second large item like that.
Yep.
And I kind of feel like that right there is a bit of an indicator.
Writing on the wall,
that it's just not... Now, they did reveal a couple new figures.
So here's let me ask you something. So this is in its second year.
Yeah, well, it's kind of reaching its second year, right? Because July is when the toy line and the cartoon launched. I think.
All right.
So it hasn't even been a full year.
Okay, so
yet.
still in its first year.
Second year at Toy
Fair. Second year at
Toy
Fair.
Second year at Toy Fair.
Yes.
So were the 2012 Turtles that big in their first year? You know, I mean, are you? I guess what I'm asking, are you comparing a first year run for Rise to a 5th year run of the 2012?
That's
you know what I mean?
Solid point. That's a very solid point. I feel like the first year figures sold very well when they launched. Because also the collectors were way into them.
Yeah.
And you also have to remember that at that time, when that series launched, there had not been any new Ninja Turtles toys since 2003.
Right.
So we went from, like the 2003 series, I think, lasted until, like, probably 07-ish. Then they did that CGI movie, which was kind of its own thing.
Amazing.
Which I love that movie.
Yeah.
And it was kind of its own thing, and it had a small toy line that went with it. So then we had like a pretty sizable gap where there wasn't anything new for Turtles. And then they launched the 2012 line, which kind of felt like a solid, real, like, reboot attempt that was like a return to what we all loved about Turtles. And so I feel like it had a lot of steam and a lot of excitement right away because people were ready to jump into new Turtles stuff.
Yep.
So I think that's, and I talked about before, I think part of the problem here is that this new one is so close to the end of the old one that is hurting it, I think. there was no gap in between. There was nowhere for us to miss the Turtles.
Right.
It went immediately from you're taking away the thing we love and giving us something that we're not incredibly thrilled with.
Yep.
And I think
it's also got the 2 Michael Bay movies.
Yes.
Affecting the overall feel of the brand.
You're right. Definitely.
You know. So yeah, I can see that.
So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here, because now we talked about, there's going to be that Netflix movie, but also since we last talked, they announced that Ninja Turtles versus Batman movie, which is a thing.
Yep. Not the rise of the Ninja Turtles versus Batman.
It looks more like traditional Turtles, and that's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
People are really excited about that. Plus, along with that movie, they announced a new Batman and Ninja Turtles comic series also, because that started as a comic crossover.
Yep.
So they announced a new run of those.
Okay.
So like we're getting new Turtle stuff. Yeah. Plus those other 2 companies are doing like collector quality Turtles now.
Yep.
So like this is definitely feels like there's still going to be more exciting Ninja Turtle stuff happening that's going to appeal towards us as a collector. So I think this coming year is going to be really telling for what direction this is all going to take. You know what I mean? It's really interesting to see kind of how it's unfolding.
Yep.
So, but I thought that was definitely something I wanted to bring up since we had that discussion beforehand.
For sure. Glad you did.
Hasbro was really interesting this year because they brought it. They brought it this year because not only Hasbro already has some amazing licenses, because they've got Star Wars, they've got Marvel, they've got Transformers, which are 3 massive heavy hitters in the toy aisles already. And like their Marvel Legends line has just been phenomenal the last couple years. And man, they just came out swinging again this year with Marvel Legends. Dropped so many freaking toys. It's like I cannot keep up with how many of those come out, because they were like, here's a whole bunch of new movie toys, except they couldn't reveal anything for Avengers Endgame yet. They couldn't reveal anything for Star Wars, new Star Wars stuff either.
I would assume.
So they got blocked on Endgame and Star Wars. So Star Wars had very few reveals, but it didn't stop them from just like shoving out a ton of other Marvel stuff. So like they've got all these new movie figures coming out that are just like, they're basically going back and making figures from every MCU film that they never made before. And they're also just like doing the other ones that they already did better than they did before. So like they're just cranking out all these amazing toys. I was really happy because they're doing the Grandmaster as a toy.
Okay.
So we're getting the Grandmaster. They're doing Korg as a toy. He comes in a 2-pack with the Grandmaster. So I was just like, this is amazing. This is amazing.
No Meek?
They're doing
No Meek?
No. Oh man, I don't know. I wonder if Meek should be packed in. Right? That would be amazing.
Yeah. I would have thought that would have been the 2-pack.
They're doing what's his name from Ant-Man? The fast talking buddy.
Michael Pena.
I'm trying to think of his character name.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, Luis.
Luis,
so he's got a figure coming out. They made a figure of him, which is amazing.
Awesome.
And Ghost, he comes in a 2-pack with Ghost because they didn't ever do Ghost before, so she's in there. But yeah, I was like he got one of the biggest pops too. Like they revealed him in the presentation, and everybody was like, yeah. Him and Korg got the 2 biggest pops. It was amazing. So they're doing all these amazing movie figures, but then they're also like, it's the 80th anniversary or something of Marvel Comics this year. So they're going back and doing these new sets, which is like celebrating 80 years of Marvel. And they've just got these amazing comic book figures coming out. They're doing a 2-pack that's like first appearance Wolverine versus Incredible Hulk, which is amazing looking. They're doing like classic Loki, classic Thor, classic Iron Man, like in like their original looks. Yeah. They're so good. They're all so good. I wish I had pictures on my phone to show you. But the other thing is that they introduced new brands this year, because one of the big news items from last year was that Hasbro bought Power Rangers. Outright bought the brand. So they own Power Rangers now. That means they're like, the TV show is produced by Hasbro. Like Hasbro outright owns the Power Rangers now. It's one of their brands. So this year they introduced their first ever go at Power Rangers toys, which has always been Bandai since the beginning of time. Yeah. So this is one of those big shakeups in the toy world. So this is the company that does Marvel Legends. Yeah. And everybody was like, I hope they do Marvel Legends style Power Rangers. And then they're just like, hey guys, here's a Lord Zed figure that you've always wanted. Like straight up, like the best looking Lord Zed figure ever. Like they're doing like interchangeable heads with like actor likenesses. I mean, like it's kind of I'm not even a huge Power Rangers fan, but I was marking out over all this because I was like, these are incredible looking. Like I can't even imagine what it's like to be a Power Rangers fan right now. Like, we're gonna get some of the best toys we've ever had. It's crazy. So they're doing that, and I thought that was awesome. And this was kind of neat too. They're doing the vintage Star Wars line from the 70s and 80s. Nice. They announced that they're doing this Grand Moff Tarkin figure in the vintage style because he was a character that never appeared in the original line.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's one of those characters that everybody always wanted him in the original line.
Yep.
So they're continuing the vintage line by introducing the first new vintage figure for that line.
Nice.
And I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah,
I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hasbro really came out swinging this year, I thought. And then on the flip side, Mattel was a giant dud. It was really crazy.
I don't know why I got sad.
Yeah, I was like, wow, John, you got do you have stock in Mattel? Or?
That's kind of the sad thing about it is because the same weekend of Toy Fair, there was a big news announcement that Mattel had the biggest drop in their stocks in 20 years or something like that. They're on hard times right now, which is kind of sad because they're the world's biggest toy company. And, Hot Wheels and Barbie, they're the house that Hot Wheels and Barbie built, basically.
Yeah.
And they're what brought us He-Man and everything, but they just, I don't know, man. Everybody was expecting them to reveal their new toy line for She-Ra. The Netflix She-Ra wasn't there, which was a huge disappointment for a lot of people. And the showroom was really weird this year because I usually love going to the Mattel showroom because they always do crazy giant Hot Wheels track setup. They do crazy, just they really go over the top and show off all this awesome stuff. And this year they were just here's a little table with Hot Wheels, here's a little table with Jurassic World, here's a little table with WWE. It just wasn't fun. It wasn't exciting. They barely revealed anything. It was a huge disappointment. It sucked.
Just have one of those Barbie vans and the doors hanging off.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. So they were my biggest disappointment at the show, which is unfortunate.
Well, but I mean that's where we're at. We're in a big transition. I feel like. I mean Bergner's, Sears,
all these.
You know what I mean? All those big old companies are not. They're the ones. They're all the ones that are dropping off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you're right. There's a big shift coming.
Yeah,
you can feel it. And even right before this show, there was so much weird big toy news because one of the big things was Mattel lost the DC Comics license, and Mattel has had DC figures for years. I mean, Hasbro was doing Marvel, Mattel was doing DC, and they lost the license.
Yeah.
So this is their last year for DC. Right before the show started, it was announced that McFarlane Toys was awarded DC Comics license. So McFarlane is going to be producing DC toys, and that's kind of bananas. That's weird. But also, Spin Master has got a DC license too. Now, Spin Master usually does a lot of kid-oriented toys. So we don't have any idea how this is going to work, and it was too early to reveal anything like that at Toy Fair, but it's kind of looking like Spin Master's going to do DC toys for kids, and McFarlane's going to handle the collector stuff. And
I think just to make it interesting, they should switch.
They should switch it up.
Yeah.
That'd be weird, man. It's already so weird. And then Diamond Select bought Gentle Giant, so it's one toy company bought another big toy company right before the show, and that was announced. So there's a lot of weird movement and shakeups happening in the industry right now, and it's gonna be interesting to see how this year plays out and what next year's Toy Fair looks like, because a lot of these announcements came out this year, but it's gonna take the year to see the effects of all of this, and next year's Toy Fair is gonna be interesting, I think. Especially after all, some of these toy companies came out and were look at all this crazy stuff, and then some toy companies are we bought this year, so next year's going to be something, and it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird. So that's just, I think that's all I really got. That's my little recap of the show and the weirdness that is the toy industry these days. It's exciting though. It's fun. So I think that's going to bring us to the final topic of the day, which is what John is anxious to talk about.
Yeah, I get the only new news of the day.
You get the new news.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is just this week, the 91st Annual Academy Awards came and went. I feel like you guys both had a lot more passion about yours than I'm going to end up having about mine. Mine's kind of one of the weaker pay-per-views of the year. You watch it.
Yeah.
You know, you get what you get out of it. But yeah, but
one a year
well, I was
is
just
a
saying
week
that's
one.
the feeling I would relate to it.
Okay,
You know,
got it.
the Academy Awards has been the Mattel booth for a few years now, and that's just all there is to it. You know?
No.
Awesome. I love it. I love it, John.
Oh man.
So we did. I did the Best Picture showcases I've talked about on the show the last couple of weekends. So I saw all the Best Picture nominees. I did have to watch Roma at home, of course, because AMC ain't having no Netflix movie at their theater.
Oh my gosh.
But I got all in, and actually,
Not in my theater.
yeah. I've spent the better part of the week trying to just watch at least all the acting categories, get all those movies done, so I really have a frame of reference when I go into some of the bigger awards and everything. I got everything but If Beale Street Could Talk, because I couldn't find a copy of that.
Yeah.
But I was well versed going into this. I will say, I think some of the lackluster feeling I get going in the last couple of years has been on a personal level, because I watch most of these movies the weekend before they come. They don't have any time to sink in. They all come in big waves.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit harder for it to settle, but that's only part of it. Part of it is also we've been in a string of weak fields. You know, there are some good movies. There were none of the movies I watched in this time. There was a field of 8 for Best Picture. Didn't hate any of them.
Right.
All of them had redeemable qualities for sure. Just not gonna remember any of them.
Yeah.
2 years from now, 5 years from now, for sure. You know what I mean? I mean, the Oscars is always one of those things. And I've said this many times, I've never once looked at it as the actual measure of quality in filmmaking.
Right.
Because it is basically just a party for Hollywood insiders to pat themselves on the back, which is fine. It's an excuse for me to love movies.
Right.
So I enjoy that part of it. Every once in a while you get a year like The Departed, something like that, when I really feel going in that the movie I would have picked halfway through the year, or I guess it came out in October, but you know what I mean? Like months out, I would have went, well, that's clearly the best, and they actually end up running with it.
Well, I think, not to interrupt, but I think what you mentioned there, because I went through a period where I was interested in the Oscars for several years. I like movies. I love movies, right?
Yeah.
And so there were several years there where I was all about the Oscars, and they'd come around. And one of the big things, I am not anymore. It petered out over the last few years to the point where I'm not interested in it at all anymore. And part of that is that there's like this big run where like the 6 weeks between when they announce the nominees, where I have to try and squeeze in all these movies that I don't really want to see anyway. You know what I mean? So just to have any frame of reference.
Well, and they've spun it's a campaign season, which we know how tiresome those are anyway.
Right.
Which is the other thing. This is going to be fun here because we get to try to talk about the Oscars for 20 minutes without getting political, which is something the Oscars can't even do. But it's become such a popularity contest isn't even the right word, because that's technically what it should be.
Right.
To a degree, but what it is instead is who can buy the best gift bags to send with the screeners.
Yep.
Who can buy the more ads in the trades.
Yeah.
To attract more voters. Who can schmooze better at the parties to get the votes, because most of the people voting probably don't watch a third of the movies.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's so gross.
Yeah, it's really weird, and it's and the more stories you hear, even going back, a couple of decades, that's one of the reasons like Miramax Films was such a big force in the 90s, was because they could put these campaigns together and they could get their movies, if not wins, honorable mentions.
Yep.
And a lot of stories around this stuff came out when the more news that surrounded Harvey Weinstein, the more you'd hear about stuff like this, and it just gets this. I mean, they're separate issues, obviously, the problems he had versus that, but it's just the stories kind of intertwine, and it makes the whole thing feel that much more gross.
Yep.
Yeah.
On so many levels.
Right.
And so it's never been anything you can look at and go, well, this is a legitimate declaration of talent behind filmmaking. What you can do is you can pick out pockets of awards every season and go, I feel like this one's kind of legit for whatever reason. Acting ones I've always felt were a little stronger than like overall movies and some of the other categories, because I really feel like a lot of times, at least, I mean, there's still campaigning that goes on there.
Yep.
But there's more of a chance with an acting category you're going to get peers rating peers on actual performances, rather than just whoever's better at parties. Yep. You still get some of that stuff.
Well, yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, we perceive that. Is that really how it is? Who knows? You know what I mean? Like,
but I think instead of being 90-10, you get an 80-20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I said, if you just look at it and go and sit down and say, well, I'm gonna celebrate movies for a couple of weeks here and for 3 hours on that one night, and I'm gonna enjoy it, I can still get plenty of excitement out of that. Just the last couple of years, it's always been one of those where I get more excitement at the lead up, and then by the time it's all done, I always go, it's done again now. This year, I don't need to go through all 8 movie reviews by any means. Like I said, I found redeeming qualities, at least in all of them.
Right.
Even just a week out, there was a couple of them. Like we started the showcase with The Favorite, which I watched and wasn't sure what to think of coming right out of it, because it was definitely an interesting movie. Weird's not the right term, I don't think, but it just kind of, there were some funny moments, there were some good performances. It never really went anywhere, and then it just kind of ended, which is another staple of Oscar movies over the last several years.
Yep.
Just nothing happens.
Yeah.
I will say, luckily, that's one of the only ones I really felt strongly about that in this field. So that was nice, but it was one of those where it ended, and I was like, that was fine. And even by a week later, I'm like, I don't,
right.
The next one was Black Klansman, which was another one where Spike Lee does what Spike Lee does.
Man.
Yeah. and that's what he does, you know. It's a fairly entertaining movie.
He does it better than anybody if you're into that.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that for sure. It's like I said, it's a fairly entertaining movie, but in the end, it's just nothing that is really all that special, or memorable. We did see Bohemian Rhapsody that first week. That was definitely my favorite of the week, and my favorite to review so far, because the easiest way I can sum up Bohemian Rhapsody is it's an average or above average biopic.
Yeah.
It's a decent movie, overlaid with 2 hours of Queen music, which means it's excellent.
Yeah. Awesome.
And great performance there by Rami Malek.
Yeah.
Always fun to watch somebody break out like that in a movie that's pretty good, that you're really enjoying sitting through. So that was the highlight of week 1. Week 2 started with Vice, which is Adam McKay's version of Dick Cheney's story, which I found hilarious because it even opens with a scrawl that basically says, Dick Cheney's a very private person, so we don't really know if any of this is true. So here's our movie.
What?
And then
amazing.
I guess I'm supposed to take it seriously for 2 hours. I don't know. But it's another one. There's some good performances. There's some funny moments. Yeah. I don't know what I'm supposed to take away from that movie because I can't. Even if it were a true story, it's 100% one-sided. You know that going in.
Right.
So no matter which side you're on, it's hard to look at it as, it's not a documentary, but it's not a fake movie, but it is a fake movie, but it, who knows. So like I said, I take away some fun moments in it, and I take away some good performances, and then I'm left wondering what else I'm supposed to take away.
Yeah.
Next one after that was Black Panther, my personal favorite of the year for so many reasons, as we've talked about. This is the kind of movie that there should be 2 of these up for Oscars every year.
Right.
And if there were, I could take the whole ceremony so much more seriously, even if they never won.
Yeah.
But the fact that if you're going to come out and celebrate movie making, you should celebrate all levels of movie making.
Yes, agree.
Which means there should be serious movies, there should be culturally significant movies, there should be groundbreaking, technologically developed movies, you know, and then there should be fun movies, popcorn movies. All of that stuff should be considered.
Yeah.
Now, it just so happens that this is 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah.
So it deserves that nomination on so many levels.
Yep.
But it's the diamond in the rough,
right?
And it shouldn't be.
Yeah,
But really fun to see in theaters again. Really fun to sit through and remember exactly how good it was, because I don't think I've watched it since Infinity War came out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, granted, we're talking about 8 months, 9 months, whatever. So it's not like it's been that long, but at the same time, a lot's happened just in the Marvel Cinematic Universe since then, and I've seen Infinity War like 8 times since then. So it felt like it had been a while,
right.
And it was just nice to get that reminder of how good this movie is on the popcorn level and on the culturally significant level and on the well-made film level and just everything.
Yeah.
After that was A Star Is Born, which I will say, like I said,
remake of the remake of the remake.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen any of the originals. And
So I've seen one of them. I couldn't tell you
Barbra
which one.
Streisand?
Yes.
Okay, I think that was the most recent, I believe.
Was it the most? I was thinking it
think.
was. I was thinking it was one back.
Yeah, it definitely
I
wasn't.
have no idea.
It definitely wasn't the first. It definitely wasn't the fourth.
Right.
I will say, like I said, I Black Panther was my favorite. I think it was well deserving to be there. I think it was the best movie of the year in that category,
Yep.
at least of those 8. But knowing how they usually pick their movies, it felt weird that it was there.
Right.
This was the first movie that I had seen out of the entire bunch that felt like it should be there.
Yeah.
On that level. Like,
Okay.
not only was this really good, it was also it felt like an Oscar movie.
Yep.
It had everything you would want. It was well made. It was well directed. It was very well acted. The soundtrack obviously was very good.
Yeah,
Everything
it was.
about this movie sort of came together.
I want to see. I want to see
Yeah.
that. I'd like to.
What?
Yeah.
You haven't seen Black Panther?
No, we're talking about A Star
We're
Is Born.
talking about A Star Is Born.
I have definitely
Wow.
seen Black Panther.
Wow. I'm like,
I've never seen Black Panther. What is that movie about?
I mean, I had the conversation with you. I said
I
I'd
think
seen
he was.
the old
I
one.
think he was with us.
I have
Star
no
Is Born.
idea.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Sorry.
that's what like. I will be excited to find out in a year or two if I do remember this movie, because I feel like I will.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I like I've said a few times just now. The biggest thing that's missing is, remembering some of these movies past when they're nominated for that 2-month stretch.
Yep.
Yeah.
This one I think resonated. I'm hoping I'm right going forward. And then the last one was Green Book, which is another one that I felt belonged there.
Yeah.
So I got 2 in a row right at the end that I thought these are both Oscar caliber movies that I'm not surprised that the Academy nominated, that everything just sort of comes together. And it's another one where you can tell it's running on all cylinders. The acting, the direction, the story itself, and it's not a super deep movie by any means. It's not one. I mean, it was made by Peter Farrelly, so it's the guy who made Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
With his brother. All those comedies from the 90s.
Yeah.
It's him kind of taking a serious turn, but not. He's not going full on drama,
Right.
obviously. So it's a pleasant little movie. Again, it deals with some tough subjects, but it does it with a lightheartedness that makes you think, but you can still smile, and good all around, and very good performances throughout there. I think both of the main actors in that were up for lead and supporting actor. You see a lot of overlap with stuff like that too. All of the Best Picture nominees had acting nominations. They had writing nominations. They had songs, all sorts of stuff. I will say that is one funny thing from the ceremony. They did the performances of all the songs nominated for Best Song, except for the one from Black Panther, which I don't... They did show a small clip of Black Panther with that song playing over it. I don't even remember that song in the movie. Like, I know I've heard that song.
Which one was it?
Sing it.
All the Lights? Was it? Or All the Stars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's over the credits.
Is it just over the credits?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Which almost feels like cheating to me when, like, best song for your movie doesn't really play into your movie at all. I don't know, but I mean, regardless,
I mean, it's not.
it happens a lot. It's one of those things where.
But
it's
yeah, I
just
mean,
like
what are you gonna do? I mean, not every song.
Good songs.
Musicals aren't popular anymore. So
but I think you can generally find 5 movies that have a song that plays some sort of part in a significant role, rather than How easy is it to take whatever pop song is big at the time and put it over your end credits?
Yeah.
Well,
You know what I mean?
but that's not what that was.
Yeah.
That song was so like. I mean, we don't need to have this whole argument. I love that song.
Yeah.
I love the feeling that it gives the end of that movie. I love, like, that's probably my favorite credit sequence in the Marvel movies. Like, I feel like that song added a lot.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to the movie, like in those closing moments, like I remember sitting there when I first saw it. I remember sitting there watching it, just like, listening to that song, just like, man, I feel like I saw something. I feel like.
Well, I mean, I will back down immediately then, because that's my only point was I don't know how much that factors in.
Yeah.
But if it does, then even if it didn't for me,
right,
doesn't have to for me.
Yeah.
Just how it plays.
Yeah.
So like I said, but then it becomes even more weird that, like, where was the performance of that one?
Yeah.
Man, music rights are so weird. Who knows? Who knows?
True. Going to the ceremony itself, and again, we don't need to do a full rundown of the 3 hours. Yeah, we'd probably be slightly more entertaining if we did.
Man,
This was a hostless Oscar, which they haven't done in like 30 years. I think they said. I can't remember exactly when the last time it happened, or the situation surrounding it. This one was the Kevin Hart situation. Kevin Hart was supposed to host. Some old comedy routines of Kevin Hart came to light. Real weird to say, considering they're available on Netflix.
Yeah.
Well, it was
Hey,
tweets,
can we?
right? Wasn't it tweets?
Well, no, it might have been some tweets, but it was definitely parts of his actual routines also.
So can we talk? Let's. Can I bring up something that's not specifically Oscar?
Yeah, go for it.
So we've passed into a realm where there is such thing as bad publicity now.
Yeah, I guess so.
How crazy? Like, we were talking about the changes in the corporations and the shift. We've reached a shift now where for years it's been no such thing as bad publicity. People are talking about you, they're talking about you.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Now bad publicity is a thing.
Absolutely.
Like that was crazy to me. I was thinking about that. So
and this, I don't think they actually fired him for it.
He stepped down.
Yeah, I was about to say, but I think they wanted him to apologize more than he wanted to. And even then, I don't know if they would have cut him, but it was sort of just one of those things where the whirlwind was starting, and he was just like, you know what, I'm out. It's fine. Not gonna.
He apologized a whole bunch on Ellen. I saw that little thing on Ellen, because Ellen was trying to push him to do it anyway.
Hadn't he already apologized before?
Yeah.
Because that's one of those. That's the worst part about some of this stuff that comes up is they'll be like, "Well, we found these things you said a long time ago," and they'll be like, "Yeah, somebody else found those a long time ago too." And I said, "I'm sorry a bunch then."
Yep.
It just you can't. It's rough to think we live in a world where you can't make a misstep.
Yeah.
Well,
anywhere.
Yeah.
I know, it's tough. Like people grow, people change, people learn from their mistakes. But when you put something on the internet, it's there forever.
Yeah.
And people will find that stuff and use it against you. So
and there are definitely unforgivable acts out there.
Oh, absolutely.
And you don't want to,
Yeah.
words do hurt.
Yeah.
I think we're learning that more, and that part of it's good.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's a whole mess. And again, we're trying not to get political.
Yeah.
Well, I would say though, not to be political, like none of the guys who have been experiencing this stuff, like their lives, their careers don't have to be over. You know what I mean? Like if we're learning that, hey, there's a consequence to being a certain way that may be unforeseeable in the future, like we just have to be ready to, like kind of like that's the price of fame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you want to put yourself out there, you take those risks.
Yeah.
If you don't want to take those risks, don't put yourself out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, Kevin Hart's not. Did he get some bad publicity? And he's probably one that's not quite. Like Harvey Weinstein's bad publicity. That's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
sure. Kevin Hart will be
Gunn's,
fine.
Yeah, Kevin Hart will be fine.
James Gunn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James Gunn. His cost him his job. Him cost him his job. It cost us Guardians 3 maybe. You know what I mean? Like that's bad publicity.
And that was actually a paying gig. I don't think hosting the Oscars is.
Right. Well, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. So. Now he's gonna do DC stuff, right?
Yeah, James Gunn.
Yeah.
He's on Suicide Squad now, right?
Right. You know what I mean? So like you know, so you can bounce back from this stuff.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
for sure.
So
for sure.
and I'm just saying that to point out, like, you know, hey, there's consequences for what you say. There's always been consequences for what you say. We're just seeing it affect some people that we didn't expect to see it affect.
Yeah.
You know, which is a good thing.
And in ways that are, it's such a weird double-edged sword, because some of this stuff you want to come out and
Right.
you want people to be punished for, and there's no way to have it right down the middle at the perfect level.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Either bad guys are going to get away with bad stuff, or good guys are going to get
Yep.
knocked down for
Yep.
bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know, however I want to say,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like some innocents are going to get caught in the whirlwind,
Yeah.
even if innocent is a loose term.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of where we are in the world, like you said, and again, also like you said, I mean, that's the price of fame. So
Yeah.
you got to be able to watch that stuff.
Yep.
And we've been saying since the internet has risen to prominence, people have been saying, be careful what you put out there, because
Right.
it's always out there.
Yep.
For a while, that meant, you know, potential job offers
Yeah.
were checking
Right.
your Facebook feed.
Yeah.
You know, and now it means if you said something 10 years ago that people are misinterpreting,
Mm-hmm.
or if you said something 10 years ago that you meant,
Right.
Yeah,
but you don't
Yeah.
mean it anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Either way, it's going to play the same.
Yeah.
You know, and that's weird. But that's what society has to adjust to, and famous people have to adjust to.
Yep.
And we just have to.
And
sit
we
back
have to
and watch
adjust
how it
to.
goes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have to
absolutely.
adjust to, yeah.
Well, yeah. You know, we as the society. So, anyways, Oscars.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. This will be our next run of specials. The Geek Easy gets real. So, the show went hostless. So, the biggest question I had going into it was kind of what are they going to do for an opening routine, because the host has usually been the guy who keeps the flow going, or lady. I know Ellen has done it recently. I can't remember. I can't name the last 5 hosts probably.
Well, I was going to say Tina Fey and Amy
yeah.
Poehler did it one year. Didn't
Did
they?
they actually host one year?
Didn't they? I believe so.
Well, they might have. That's what I was just saying. I couldn't
Yeah.
I can't name the last 5.
Yeah.
I remember Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman was a while back. That was the year. I think Dan Harmon won an Emmy for writing that Oscars. That year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Seth MacFarlane did it one year.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. Neil Patrick Harris did one year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but again, traditionally, they, you know, their main job is to take you to and from commercial break, really.
Right.
But they have that opening, and the opening is usually a big deal, and often one of the best parts of the show.
Yep.
And so I was really wondering what they were going to do as an opening if they didn't have anyone. I figured they would just do some sort of conglomeration of people, but instead they opened with a Queen concert.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know who the guy singing was. I've heard his name. I read his name earlier today, and now I can't remember it. I think he's an American Idol guy.
Was it Adam Levine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's him, right? Or
No.
Adam Lambert? What's
Lambert,
that?
I
Lambert?
think.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Am I confusing like the Maroon 5 guy?
Yeah.
That's Adam Levine, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Adam Lambert.
Lambert
I think
sounds
is him?
right.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think that's him.
Yeah.
So he was doing the which I guess the hosting. He was doing the singing, which I guess he's played with Queen before then.
Yes,
is my understanding.
I believe that is correct.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was one of those. I'll be honest. When it first started, I was kind of like, you know, like I saw him singing Queen songs,
Yep.
and I was like, this guy immediately is no Freddie Mercury. But this is a good idea. I like this
Right.
idea. And then I realized it was Queen up there with him.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, gotten better.
Yeah.
You know, and they did, you know, 2 or 3 song little set there. It didn't take too terribly long, but the crowd was super into it. The crowd of Hollywood elites.
Right. That crowd of millionaires.
Yeah, you know. They got it in, they got out. It was fun to watch there for a second, and then they panned it over to Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, and Maya Rudolph.
Yep.
And they kind of did the opening shtick, which they kept short and sweet, with a couple of funny lines in there, and then they just kind of got the show going.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that part of it.
Yep.
I liked it. It wasn't as fun as some of the more memorable, like the Hugh Jackman
Yeah.
dance numbers and all that stuff. There's definitely been ones that I've liked a lot more. but especially with the circumstances surrounding this one, I thought that was a great way to play into it.
Yep.
It was a really good year for Bohemian Rhapsody to be made because Queen just kind of saved them there.
Yeah, really.
And then the rest of the Oscars really did just play as just a going moment to moment.
Yep.
You know, it was a lot of presenters, like you always have, and then they would just have other people like presenting the presenters.
Right.
But it played fine.
Yeah.
There were no big gags. A lot of times they'll do those kind of mid-show stunts, which are neat, but I don't love them, and they take up a lot of time for a show that they're always trying to shorten.
Yep.
Without doing that kind of stuff, they really kept a better flow going.
Yeah.
I liked that a lot. I did notice the first hour or so at least, everybody who came up to and accept awards stayed up there way too long. Again, it's the funny thing to me.
But that always happens. Though.
Yeah,
I feel like that always happens.
For sure it does. But it's funny with more of the controversy going into this Oscars, because it wasn't just the Kevin Hart thing.
Right.
There was the fact that they were trying to reduce the time of the show, so they were going to do some of the awards during commercials. People in Hollywood got really mad about that, so they reversed course right away.
Right.
Reminiscent of earlier in the year when they announced they were going to try to do a popular movie category,
and
everybody freaked out about that, which I don't understand why that would upset anyone. You know, if you don't want to nominate movies that people actually like for your big awards, why not give them their own award? I don't want to see it because I want those movies involved in the real awards. But I don't know why there would be such vitriol for it.
Yeah.
But all of that stuff was kind of going around that one.
Then it creates that, you know, this is their night to pretend like they make art and like they're the you know what I mean? Not that they don't make art, but you know, this is their night to pretend like our tastes are what matter.
Yeah.
And so if they then have to go, our tastes are what matter, except to everybody who likes this movie. You know what I mean? Like, I can kind of see. I think it's dumb. I'm with you on it, but
you would think that room of people would want as many eyes on them as they could get. You know, and no one watches their show because they just talk down to everyone either through their movies or through their actual work.
Right.
So I did find it funny that the Academy comes out with the idea to do some awards during the commercials, and everybody freaks out because, and they pick some weird awards because I know the cinematography was one of them they wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's one of your most important aspects of film. Like actually making a movie look like a movie. Like taking the pictures is sort of a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
when it comes to filming something, you know. You have sound.
Who's your favorite cinematographer, John?
Who's your favorite sound mixer?
Well, that's not my point.
Well, but that the okay, fair enough.
Okay, you know, I mean, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I still think that without knowing the people who are actually behind the camera doing it,
right,
the art that is done there, is, you know.
Yeah, but you know, director. I mean, we may know that there's somebody behind the camera and he matters. And I'm not taking any, I don't mean to take anything away from any cinematographer.
Yeah.
But I can't name one. You're the movie guy. You can't name
one. No.
That's why I'm saying that's why that is going to get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see.
And then anything cinematography wise, the director gets credit for that, and they're definitely not going to.
Well, but my point wasn't why take off cinematographer when you could take off director. My point was why take off cinematographer when you could take off sound mixing, which no one can even tell you what that is, let alone who does it.
Fair enough, for sure.
You know,
for sure.
Yeah,
I don't disagree. I guess. Yeah.
So, but you know, everybody freaks out when they talked about maybe shortening the awards show, and so they decide not to shorten the awards show. But then everyone comes up and talks for 2 minutes too long.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't want them to threaten to take your awards off, maybe stick to your allotted time.
Right.
You know?
So this is that problem of so we've got the Oscars are this company now, right? The Oscars are a brand, the Oscars are a business. The Oscars only exist if people watch their TV show. So you've got all these people that are making the Oscars, and then you know, they're trying to make a more entertaining, more digestible, more marketable TV show. But then you've got all the actors and, you know, the people that this show is for. They're like, this is our night. we're not going to cater to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're not thinking about it along the line. Like, this is their night to celebrate each other, to do whatever. So they're really not thinking about it along the lines of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like, let's make it digestible, consumption for the public. I get it.
Yeah.
I think it's dumb both ways. That's why I don't watch anymore. But I do know. I can see it.
Well,
I can see it.
What I do know for sure is if I was like the PR guy for the Academy itself, I would just never make another announcement.
Yeah, let's just stop.
Because all that's going to happen is I'm going to go, hey, these guys want to do this to change the show, and then everybody's going to yell at me for 10 minutes. And then they're going to decide that they don't want to do that anymore, and I'm going to have to come back and go, oh, you win.
Right.
And then I'm going to look like a fool every single time.
From now on, it's date and time, and that's it.
Yeah, so basically I'd be the PR guy, and they'd be going, hey, go do a press release and tell them we're going to do this, and I'd go, no.
Well, it's a fair disconnect too, because we're talking about actors and the Hollywood elites that can't walk down the street without getting mobbed by people. They're not worried about people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then we're talking versus the people who have to look at the ratings Monday morning and go, oh my gosh, we got killed by NCIS Miami.
The big awards, there was, I think, one huge surprise, which was Best Actress. That went to Olivia Colman for The Favorite.
Yeah.
She played Queen Anne in that movie. I was really surprised at that because she was by no means the lead actress in that movie, which was hilarious to me. Yeah, like the two lead actresses were Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz, who were both up for supporting actress.
What?
And neither of them won. And then Olivia Colman was up for lead actress, even though she wasn't in the movie as much as either of those two, nor was the story about her.
Yeah.
She was, for lack of a better term, she was the MacGuffin of that movie almost. Like, she was the one they were fighting over.
Okay.
More or less. So, I don't think anybody expected that win. There was an audible gasp from the crowd, which is always one of those fun Oscar moments when no one in the room saw that coming.
Yeah. Which aren't they all supposed to have voted for her? So that's
well,
weird, right?
It's one of those. I tell you what, I firmly believe that Olivia Colman has an Oscar today because the only movie Meryl Streep made last year was Mamma Mia. Because just going down that category of the people who are nominated, you're looking at it, you're like, all right, well established, good performance, well established. And that woman from The Favorite's in there. That's kind of the throwaway nomination. They needed 5, so they gave somebody who was in an Oscar movie one.
Yeah. What's her name?
Olivia Colman, I think.
So they're all going, hey, I'm gonna vote for Olivia Colman.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
For lack of a better scenario, I think that's it. I think it's one of those where it's like, I can't decide between the actual ones, so I'll just kind of mark this one in, and so I'm not swaying it,
Yeah.
I don't want to vote for this one or against this one or this one, so here we go, and that happened enough. Maybe that's how it happened. Maybe that's not how it happened. I don't know. And I don't want to take away anything from that woman. She had a fine performance. Like I said, the best part about that movie was the people who was in it.
Yeah.
And she was good. It's just real weird, and nobody saw that one coming. And then the best picture category surprised me a little bit, I thought, with Green Book winning. I don't know what the favorites were going in.
Right.
I was expecting A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Hollywood loves movies about fame.
Yep.
And it had a lot of good publicity around it, good press. Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga performed their song live and brought the house down when they did. And so there was just a lot of steam kind of behind that one, I felt like. And then there's always the outside chances that, one of the... sometimes they'll give one, Spike Lee had already won for writing that night. Spike Lee had never won an official Oscar before that night. So there's always the chance that they're going to kind of go that way.
Yep.
Which I thought was funny, too, because he got super mad when he didn't win.
Yeah.
Which I thought was adorable, because it's like, Spike Lee... You made like the 7th best movie of a weak field of 8, and you're mad. Like trying to leave the studio, man.
Right.
You know.
So I gotta say this. I feel like Spike Lee Spike Lee wants that Oscar so bad. You know, I feel like he's kind of an outlier. I mean, everybody kind of wants their Oscar, and especially once they start, you know, sending out the gift packages and everything.
Yeah.
I feel like Spike Lee is on a different level where, like, Spike Lee feels like he's playing for a championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what he's here for. You know, everybody else wants to make a good movie, or everybody else has this movie they want to make, and they're pretty sure it can win an Oscar. You know, some people just straight up make movies to win Oscars. You know, we talk about Oscar bait a lot. That's fine. Man, Spike Lee is out there. Like, Spike Lee is making his movie, and he is not going to rest until his movie wins him an Oscar his way. You know, like, he's the one out there. He's like the crazy auteur, like, I'm going to keep doing my thing until somebody finally recognizes how great I am.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, like, I feel like he's kind of and maybe that's just because he's so outspoken that he's the only one I have that impression from.
Yeah.
But that's what I get from him. So, like, I wasn't surprised at all to hear that he won, and then was still mad he didn't win. You know, and he did. Did you see when he won? He came up like he had won.
Yeah.
You know, like he had won the championship.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
He ran up and he had
like jumped on Sam
pages.
Jackson. Yeah.
You know,
Did you see how excited Sam Jackson was when he won?
yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
and I'm happy for Spike Lee. I like Spike Lee, but he's happy.
Well, I didn't see any of the footage from afterwards, but apparently, like I said, like he didn't win, and he got up and tried to leave, and like they stopped him at the door and made him go back to his seat. Just kind of rude.
I wish somebody would stop me at a door.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Go back to your seat. What?
Yeah.
No, I'm done.
Right.
I don't need to sit down anymore. That was the
Get
end.
out of my way.
Yeah.
You're much bigger than Spike Lee.
But I'm much poorer than Spike Lee.
That's fair. So, but like I said, I mean, I was happy with that. Happy enough with that win. I don't think I was rooting for Black Panther, obviously, because I wanted Marvel to get its Oscar.
Yeah.
I was probably next rooting for Roma, which I didn't even like that much. But I wanted Netflix to get their big Oscar. So like that was it. Yeah. Like I was rooting for Marvel and then Netflix and then A Star Is Born.
Right.
You know, that was sort of. But Green Book probably would have been my fourth.
Well, good.
And so it was one of those where, you know, going into you feel like Best Picture should be the main event, and again, I'm getting into this trend where year after year I get there and I go, I don't have enough invested in any of these to care that much.
Yeah.
So, you know, some years something terrible wins, and some years something decent wins. This was the decent one. I guess I'll just be happy with that.
Right.
I am looking forward to it. Everything in life is cyclical. I'm convinced of that. There is always good periods and bad periods. You know, you hear so many things about, well, this one thing is done now, and this other thing is bigger, and this other thing will always be bigger. It'll never be taken down again, and it reverses. Right off the top of my head, I can think of sports because I'm a big baseball fan, and the NFL got so huge for so long, and people decided it was a juggernaut they could never falter,
right?
And baseball was, you know, done as America's sport, blah blah blah, whatever. And now NFL's going on all these hardships. I mean, they're both huge. They're both always going to make tons of money,
Right.
But I'm never convinced anything will be, you know, like that ebb and flow. So, point being, I'm sure there will be a renaissance of great years for Oscars coming. I don't know if that's going to be next year or 20 years from now, but I'm hoping it's sooner than later.
Right.
Well, I'd really like to just see some actually memorable film. You know, like we're talking about. We still talk about Silence of the Lambs to this day. You know, I had a conversation about it not long ago that had nothing to do with the fact that we were near Oscar season or anything like that. You know, they asked a question in one of the trivia. They do trivia between the movies at the Best Picture Showcase, and they asked for the last 3 Oscar winners, and I couldn't think of them off the top of my head.
Oh man,
You know, as soon as the person answered said them, I was like, yeah. And even it was the last one of the night. We were walking out of the theater, And my wife even said, like, why didn't you answer that? You know all that stuff. And I said, I know a bunch of them from back when they were good. But, I couldn't remember all these. And we were walking right past the employees who were asking the questions, and they started laughing real loud. And I was like, it is what it is there.
Yeah.
I like the season. I had a good week of watching tons of movies. I think I literally watched a dozen movies this weekend, which is absurd. And a lot of those were fun because, I spent Sunday leading up to the ceremony watching a bunch of the visual effects nominees, which were Ready Player One, Infinity War, and Solo. Yeah, that was a good day.
Nice.
And then I watched the ceremony, so you can definitely build some good times around this kind of thing. It'll always be what it is. What it is sometimes wonderful and sometimes forgettable. Yeah. But it's a good month for me, and 2019's in the books now, and on to next year.
You totally forgot to mention the Into the Spider-Verse one.
I did. Yeah, that was one of the.
How amazing is that?
Because I was super excited. I was. I think I was you guys. I texted right away. I was like, because that was like an hour and a half into the show. I was like, man, because Roma did win. Yeah, Roma did win some.
Yep. Roma picked up some Oscars,
and Black Panther did win some Oscars and some pretty groundbreaking stuff. With some of those categories, and then Into the Spider-Verse won that Best Animated, which is probably like my favorite part of the night. Really, I was so excited when that happened, and then I texted you guys right away. I was like, man, Netflix and Marvel and Spider-Man have all won Oscars so far tonight. Like, this is awesome. And then I don't know how I forgot to bring that up, but that was the highlight. I just love seeing that movie gets so much praise and play.
I know.
Like, it's such an
everybody loves it. It's so great.
Such an inventive way to tell a movie, such a well-made movie, such a significant movie on several levels. The fact that it's a cartoon, you almost forget about when you start talking about.
I feel like that it's cool that it won because it not only was it a good movie, but it had like something going for it as far as like its animation and everything, because it was uniquely animated and like so much so that I think there was news that Sony was trying to trademark that style of animation, which is so bad. Don't do that. You can't copyright a style of animation. I don't think they can. But the point is, like, it was unique. It was something new and different, and I think that's awesome that it got recognized for that.
It's a really big deal too, because traditionally Best Animated is the Disney Pixar Award.
I was going to say. It went up against a Disney movie and a Pixar movie.
Yeah, and usually it's like, which one of you guys made a bigger movie this year, that's the one that's going to win. Yes, it's sort of a gimme.
Yeah.
But it pulled it through. And I had some hopes because it won the Golden Globe unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, maybe it'll ride this wave right in, but I didn't want to get my expectations too high. But that was definitely the surprise, and it was like the victory of the night.
I'm glad it won.
That and the first Black Panther win, I felt
that's pretty
similar, because that was the big Marvel Oscar.
Yeah.
Which I just knowing that 20 movies in, they can finally say that.
Yeah.
That made me really happy.
That's awesome.
And then. Total side note from that part of the discussion, but it reminded me of the other thing I wanted to bring up is the Netflix win. The biggest category I think it won. Well, the biggest category would have been director for Alfonso Cuarón, but it also won best foreign language film. But the thing I kind of wanted to bring up there is I think that's so lame that you can be nominated for Best Picture and Best Other Type of Picture. That's happened a few times with animated features too. Right. It's like they'll nominate one for Best Picture and it'll be nominated for Best Animated Movie, and you'll be like, well, how could any of the other four possibly beat it? Like, what if one of the other four wins Best Foreign Language and then that one wins Best Picture? How do you take that seriously? So it's one of those weird things where if you get nominated for the big one, I kind of feel like you should either choose or just get outright eliminated from the smaller one and just take the fact that you were nominated as your win. In this case, it worked out because the movie I wanted to win it won it. But it's such a weird little gaffe right there. But Into the Spider-Verse, Best Animated Movie of 2018. I want to end on that note.
Yeah,
it's a good note to end on.
Spider-Man has an Oscar. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That is so awesome.
Thanks for a reminder. I would have been kicking myself all the way. into next week's show.
Very cool. Lots of wrestling, lots of toys, and lots of movies.
Mm-hmm.
But no fan questions because I failed to even ask you guys. So I apologize for that. That's my fault.
Also, we had a lot going on this year.
It was a lot going on.
It is what it is. If you guys have questions about Elimination Chamber or Toy Fair or the Oscars, post them to the Facebook.
Yeah.
Let us know. We can try to field some as we go along here, or we can save them for the next time we tape and get to them then. That's the great thing. Like we said earlier in the show, you put it out on the internet and it's there forever now.
Yeah.
Ask us today. We'll probably still remember in 2 weeks.
That's right. Yeah, well, I'll definitely make sure that we put up a post about it, too, for the next episode. So save those questions. We'll definitely get to them. And if you're not already following us on Facebook, make sure you do that. Just do a search for the Geek Easy Podcast and hit that like button. That way you can stay up to date with everything we're posting. But while you're at it, why don't you also go ahead and head over to the YouTube page and subscribe. Actually, I want to check that real quick. Because we were awfully close.
It's at youtube.com.
No, yes, that's where it's at. Oh, so as of this recording, it might be different when this goes up, but we're sitting at 492 subscribers right now. We're about to crack 500, which is pretty awesome, and we would love to get there.
Yeah.
So help us crack 500 and then beyond. Let's make the YouTube channel grow. I think a lot of people are starting to, I mean, it's just a lot of people use YouTube now, and a lot of people are watching the videos, and I think that's awesome if that's the way you prefer to do it. So definitely go over to youtube.com, do a search for the Geek Easy Podcast. You'll find us. We're the first search result that pops up. It works out great. But if you don't want to do the video thing, you can also check us out on the audio format, which is on iTunes, it's on Stitcher, it's on Google Play, it's on Podbean. It should be on any of those apps that you use to listen to podcasts. And whatever app you're using, rate us, give us a review, do all that good stuff to help us spread the word on the show. It'll help us out a ton. And I think that's going to wrap up this episode. Any other final words from you, gents?
No, sir.
All right. Well, until next time, thanks for listening.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of the Geek Easy Podcast.